Thanks for joining us here on Local Decision 2025 on North Metro TV. And we're going to talk now to Chris Stowe, running for Lino Lakes City Council. And Chris, so happy you could stop by and let the viewers know about yourself. And we always like to start by asking the candidate, why are you running? And who is Chris Stowe?
Hi, thanks for having me. Chris Stowe is a guy who lives on 426 Pine Street in Lino Lakes. I own an equine boarding facility and I have cattle there and animals and stuff. That's about me. I'm a Minnesota boy. I wasn't born here. We moved here when I was 7. I'm from Los Angeles. I've seen what urban sprawl and all that stuff does, and my parents moved us out to God's country. So that's about me. Why am I running for city council? I think our taxes have gone up exponentially every year. We've got a water treatment facility coming in. We're hiring a lot of staff and personnel. We've got maintenance buildings going in. We've got roads. We've got explosive development, and our taxes just keep shooting up. The city keeps using the excuse that we have massive inflation, but with massive inflation, our property values have also increased a lot. So the inflation argument doesn't really jive. It's basically they're spending other people's monies to help the developers turn us into Blaine.
And the city council, which you hope to be a part of here soon, approved a preliminary tax levy of 16%. That's a huge bump. How could you counter that if you get on the council and get it going the other direction?
Well, one thing is I'm a trained Minnesota licensed plumber, and I've run projects as a foreman plumber, and I pride myself on when I run a project, it always came out on time, or I'd get dumped somebody else's project that was behind, and I always managed to make the contractors that I was working for money. So you need to do time-sensitive things. The cost of materials and labor and everything constantly goes up, but we need to strategically plan what we're doing. Right now, just last Monday at City Council, they were trying to approve, and I think they did, buying 8 treadmills for the rookery at a cost of $90,000. How many memberships do you need to recoup $90,000? We could have taken that $90,000 and built some trails outside. Not to mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars we've been losing on that since, 2013, I think? So, yeah, we've got to change some things, and we've got to have smart growth and not high-density growth.
Yeah, and I guess that's the challenge for Lino Lakes. Met Council says the city's projected growth is 30% between now and 2050. You don't want to become another, as you put it, Los Angeles, SoCal, where there's just explosive growth everywhere, not much open space. How do you keep the open space in a city like Lino Lakes and yet allow some growth, smart growth, to come in?
That's really easy. What you do is you restrict your utilities. Don't drag power there. Don't drag city sewer and water there. If you don't have water and power, you're not modern living. The other thing is the Met Council, if they want to push this high density, and that's why our taxes continue to rise, are they going to pay our tax bill? I don't think they should have the authority to tell us what to do. The other thing I would say is don't change the zoning. If the property is zoned at, for example, Nature's Refuge North, they said that the property was zoned rural executive. That's 1 house for every 10 acres. They had 60 acres out there. 30 of it was actually developable, roughly. 30 of it was a wetlands. And right now it's a complete strip mine. The entire thing is destroyed, and they're packing like 96 houses in there on 30 developable acres when it was zoned for 6 homes. Now, those would have been high-quality, expensive houses like what you have in North Oaks, but this high-density stuff's going to kill us. So we need to reevaluate our plans. If our 2040 plan, our 2050 plan, whatever the plan is, let's change the plan because the plan's not working.
Can Lino Lakes coexist with Met Council?
No.
Why?
Because they're cramming stuff down our throat that's not healthy for us. And what inevitably that's doing is just expanding the urban area. And then the project is literally called Nature's Refuge, and it's really nature's slaughter.
Yeah, so you're losing wildlife, you're losing wetlands, things like that?
I can show you a short video if you'd like to see it right now.
Yeah, well, I saw part of it before our interview.
Right.
So is that one of your main concerns, that the
main
charm of Lino Lakes is going to go away?
Our charm is that we're rural, yet we're close enough to the
Yep.
city. We're 35 minutes from downtown St. Paul or downtown Minneapolis, depending on what MnDOT's doing with our freeways. Or the snowstorms or whatnot. What's our charm, though, is our charm is having the houses so they're not so packed in that the deer and the squirrels and the coyotes and, I mean, nothing can grow. And then you just pack them in and all you have is Chemlawn or, and sprinkler systems and one tree in between you and your neighbors, and you better trim it because at the next storm it's hitting somebody's house.
Yeah.
So high density in a rural area like we are doesn't work. If you want to push high density, that's fine. There's plenty of skyscrapers in downtown Minneapolis and St. Paul that are vacant.
So Lino Lakes, though, for being a town that kind of has that up north vibe, but being in the Twin Cities metro, is in a unique location. I-35W, I-35E, you're right between those major interstates.
Right.
Can you utilize some growth off those freeways, which have a lot of traffic? The volume is high every day.
Absolutely, and I think that the model to go with is to put the business or industrial complexes up against the back of the freeway, because people don't want to have a quality house and hear freeway noise 24/7. I think it makes sense to put the commercial properties along the freeway routes. As far as the wooded areas and stuff, we need to spread out the buildings, if you will, so that nature can live in between them. Otherwise, we're turning it into a desert, and it's just a lawn desert.
All right, Northwest Maine, that's coveted turf, if you will. There is a master plan approved by the current city council. Do you agree with their vision of what that's going to possibly be?
No, and I think it's a disaster waiting to happen, and I've been involved with talking with Rice Creek Watershed District about it. Right now, it's Watershed District Ditch 10-22-32, which is a combination of historic ditch 10 with 22 with 32. I'm off of branch 4 of that. At my property, they have lowered and increased in size, I believe, some of them, but they've lowered 7 culverts north of me and nothing south of me, so it's flooding out my property currently. That branch 4 doesn't flow properly currently right now. The main branch that cuts through there literally cuts through fence lines and stuff, and it literally does right angle turns. It's not natural at all, and they need to correct that and lower that before they do this development. They just lowered the pipe on West Pine Street this week. They were supposed to lower it 2 feet. They lowered it, I believe, 3 feet when I checked it out. And when Rice Creek Watershed District's on the hook for paying for the wetlands credits, they sharpened their pencil. They went from 10 acres to 4 acres to this isn't going to affect anything. And it's absolutely going to dry out some significant amount of land. But they need to correct the drainage system in that area because it's the floodplain before they develop anything. Right now, when it rains hard, the sod farms literally flood out.
Yeah.
And once they develop that, they'll dig their ponds deep and they take the spoils to build it up so it's hilly terrain. But that's going to become a disaster for some people as far as the flooding goes. The other thing is the density on that is in my opinion, ridiculous. Right now it's currently zoned agricultural, and the city shouldn't change the zoning. Everybody that went down there, just like the Nature's Refuge North, everybody that went to the meeting said the density's too high. And the city just went along with whatever the builders or the contractors want to do. And that's not, long term, that's not good. It's great for the developers, they'll make millions.
Would you like to see Northwest Maine just stay the way it is, sod farms, very rural feel?
Absolutely, absolutely. But that I don't think is a realistic,
Okay.
We have to have progress. But when the city shrugs their shoulders and goes, I guess this is progress, we're going to just take Paradise and put up a parking lot, I'm not for that. And the growth that they want to put in there. I mean, I just looked at some of the preliminaries. They want to put in half a dozen roundabouts. And then they say, well, we get reimbursed for some of that money from Anoka County for the travel on the main thoroughfares and whatnot. So they're $1 million a piece, though. And they're getting some subsidies or whatever it is from Anoka County, but at the end of the day, that's still our money being wasted on a bunch of roundabouts that we don't need. They put the one on Sunset and Maine, and it was $1 million, and then, oh, hey, we need to pay a guy like me, a plumber, to go in there and put an RPZ in, or a water supply, because we want to plant plants out there. But at the end of the day, we spent $1 million for a roundabout, which is a 20-mile-an-hour zone in a 55 zone. And if we put roundabouts through a whole city, they're ridiculous. In certain areas, great, but one after the next, after the next, after the next, no, that's too much building, too much density.
And I totally get the charm and the appeal of Lino Lakes. As you said, I mean, you're close to both the major downtowns, but you don't feel like you live in a major city. But
Right.
how do you not look like a town that's saying not in my backyard? How do you allow for some growth, for some people to come in and enjoy what you've been enjoying without spoiling the city?
Well, I worked my butt off my whole life to get to where I'm at. So for me to say not in my backyard, I'm not afraid to say not in my backyard. I don't want that here. I don't want a big data center here. I don't want a nuclear reactor in my backyard either. I think it's okay to say no. In fact, I would say if you want to slow the growth, vote for Stowe, I'll vote no.
Fair enough.
So
Do you think most people in Lino would go along with that thought
I
process?
do, because the 16% tax increase after our properties already went up in value is a ridiculous waste. It's easy to spend other people's money.
Yeah.
If your daughter or son needed a new car and you said, hey, I'm going to get you a car, here's a Toyota, or hey, get whatever car you want, you're a millionaire, you bust out the checkbook, you're buying a Lamborghini. It's that kind of deal. People will spend your money for you, and that's why I got involved. I had some problems with the city, ended up being fine for me. I had to spend money on lawyers, and we'll see what happens with that. But when I went down there, I went to work, and then I'd work on my farm at night, and I realized when I was going down there, like, we've got some problems, and I was just assuming that these problems would be taken care of, and they're not being taken care of. And some of the people on that board have been on that board for a while. Hey, I've been the mayor for 16 years. Well, how's our taxes looked in the last 16 years? Looks like they've been getting worse and worse and worse. It's time for change.
So if you get elected to the Lino City Council, would you go in there with a mindset of shaking up the status quo?
Absolutely. I think you need a cowboy on that board. I'm not running for mayor for a reason. I don't think I'd be a good mayor. I would be a good guy to fight for the underdog, if you will. I'd also like to say that I endorse, if I was to pick two of the candidates right now, I would pick me and Randy Raniker for city council. I know they're pushing Julia, but when you look at what she said at the Minnesota League of Voters, and I like her, but every single issue she wanted to spend money on. 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 And that's not how you get to not have a 16% increase in your taxes.
Can a cowboy, a renegade, get on the council and work collaboratively with your peers and cohorts?
I think absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it'll be. Geez, my grandfather was raised as a cowboy, kind of, and he was a plastic injection mold maker. And we all know about plastics nowadays, and we all know about the toxicities of that. My dad was a project manager, and he did a lot of projects for like 3M and stuff. We all know about PFASs. But can I be a cowboy and still do a good job? Yeah, because one of my grandfather's friends is a guy named Roy Rogers. And I just think, yeah, I get a little hot. I get a little bit this, that, or the other. Our current mayor does too. I'm passionate about it. But at the same time, if in the back of your head you think, what would Roy do? You're going to win in life.
All right. Before we wrap up, look the viewers in their eyes and tell them why they should vote for Chris Stowe.
Well, you should vote for me because I don't know what I can do on the current proposed tax increase, because I think that money's already spent, and we're buying bonding for the water treatment plant. But I will try to tie the purse strings up, and I will try to slow down the development, and I will encourage commercial development along the interstates, if you will. But we need to protect Lino, which is actually Land O'Lakes. That's another story. We need to protect our community, or we will see it become a place that we want to move out of.
All right. If you get on, can I call you Cowboy Chris Stowe if you get elected?
No, I don't think. Wrangler.
Okay, Wrangler. Very good. Hey,
You
thanks
can,
for
you can call me whatever you want. Stay in touch too. I want to hear from people, and you know,
right.
and I'll tell you if I'm doing something wrong. But we're spending some money on some serious stuff, and I think I'm running over on your time. So
We're all good. But thank you for sharing your thoughts.
absolutely, thanks for having me again.
All right. He's Chris Stowe running for Lino Lake City Council, and this is Local Decision 2025.